Meeting to order. This meeting is a May 2nd, 2016 reconvening of the Board of Equalization. If you recall, we adjourned the last meeting with two items, two properties or two sets of properties that we were waiting for more input, I believe, Mr. Hirschfeld, and those would be the two subjects of today's meeting, I believe.
That would be correct, Mr. President.
You want to go ahead?
Certainly. The first property we'll address is located at 155 4th Avenue Southeast, owned by Mr. Thomas Ozdachuk. We did contact him today. At present, he did not have an appraisal available yet. My appraiser, Jeremy Farrar, did speak with him, and his sentiment was that he spoke his piece. He might show up tonight, but he didn't have anything additional to say. At this time, I do not see how we can change that value, and certainly when the appraisal comes through, we'd take a look at it and readdress the value at that time. So in regards to this property, my opinion would be to leave the value as presented.
So his recourse at a later time would be to follow the abatement route if he thinks he has evidence to.
That is correct.
To second guess the valuation. Okay. Let's see. We probably will need to approve that, I suppose, along with whatever we do on the other item, huh? I would guess.
I would think maybe just one to accept the values once. Is that
yes,
proper?
if you're going to change it, it should be a motion. But if you're not going to make any changes, you can just do it at the end when you accept the tax roll with these adjustments.
Okay. Okay, then we also have I believe there were 3 Sullivan properties, Mr. Hirschfeld?
That is correct, and I believe it was a HIF funding grant that they'd received to build these. That grant totaled a little more than $1.4 million. They did provide me with an appraisal, the loss of income due to the low-income units. The estimate of value by the appraiser was approximately 22%, or just under $1 million. In my opinion, the loss of income is offset by the grant, and that's why I would initially go with the opinion of not making a change here, because they are receiving that grant. That is a benefit that's offset excuse me, by the income, or basically a wash, if you will. Mr. Sullivan was under the impression, and he will be getting more data to me at a later date, that part of that grant capped the amount of profit that he could earn. And so if the market rent would go back up to $2,500, he'd have to cap his top end rents at around $1,200 to $1,400 was his estimate, so he wouldn't go over certain profit threshold. If he were to breach that, then he'd have to pay that grant back. That would shed a little different light on this valuation process, and I'd certainly have to consider that as a negative impact upon the value of his property if he can't reach full market rents. But at this time, he's still trying to find that data to bring forward to me.
So he's going to try to bring you some documentation of some kind.
Correct.
Testing to that.
And so my opinion is similar to the other one, that we go ahead and accept the value as is, and certainly we can correct his value if and when he's able to provide that extra documentation to me.
Okay. So again, that would be via the abatement route at that time.
That one there, we probably wouldn't have to abate. It would be a correction due
Okay.
to additional information that I did not have prior.
Okay.
And so we could do that without even having to go through the abatement.
Okay. Is that making sense to everybody? Anybody have questions of Mr. Hirschfeld on either of the properties, really? Okay, then, Ms. Goss, I believe we would need a motion to approve the valuations of both the Ozdachuk property at 155 4th Avenue Southeast and the 3 Sullivan properties in the Country Oaks edition. That would be the core of the motion.
Yes, the only thing that I would add is that the acceptance of the assessment roll be amended to include those because
Okay.
they were accepted from the tax roll
Okay.
at the last meeting.
Okay, so the motion would include an amendment of the assessment roll.
Correct.
Who would like to make that?
So
motion?
moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, we'll vote. Mr. Oldman?
Aye.
Mr. Frenzel?
Aye.
Mr. Decker?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries. Do we have anything else as far as equalization?
Nothing for equalization. A point of information, I did receive 2 more abatements late last week that we'll be preparing probably for next commission meeting.
Okay. Okay. All right, motion to adjourn would be in order.
So move.
We have a motion and a second, so we are adjourned.